What not hardly ever was. It was Carl, me, and JT and Edith, Gaynell, and Belmer.
Right, seven, nine, and
What time does it, Earlene get off?
on Friday,
Friday.
she gets off pretty early on Fridays, I
What
guess.
time is it?
But
It's 12, is she off at 12 Saturday?
it seemed like around 12 or 1 o'clock. But I get mixed up. Then we come up here, and then that's where it started. And then I went to school. I started school. We moved from over there where the shopping center is now in Anderson, where Daddy used to come and here comes Daddy pooping the patty.
Yeah.
We said, here comes Daddy pooping the patty.
We did.
Yes,
We
sir.
were, honey,
And
we
we
thought
said-
we was being sinful. We saying something dirty.
Oh, and I remember one time and we had this truck. You know, my daddy carried us in a truck. They had with a
Yeah.
high bed,
Yeah.
and we were all going.
Nobody home, I don't know where they are.
And we were all going
They supposed to
somewhere.
be there.
And we were all at the back. Well, see, they didn't have air conditions in the trucks and nowhere. But Mom and them had their windows down. And there was a bunch of black people picking cotton or working out in the field. And it must, I don't know where's picking cotton or where they're just working in the field. It was just a bunch of them. And we all, I don't know where we learned it. We all started saying, black clouds are rising, just come home from a nigger baptizing. And you know what? Mama heard us and made Daddy pull over there and she told us, said, don't you ever let me
I bet she
hear
told you about the
again."
bald-headed man, did she?
She had told us that, but she told us not to never, she told us not to do that again. And every time I think about, Sue Dela, I mean, they telling about Ruth doing that way, and they said sometimes Daddy would stop and pick him up, let him sit on the back of the wagon to ride because it was their neighbor. I think about Sue Dela telling Mama that joke, and Sue Dela said, "Mama, you remember you told her a joke about him rolled himself out of a ride? I was saying rolled instead of saying what it was.
Yeah.
He was walking along behind when he
Yeah,
found
and I told it. Mama didn't want to hear it. I said, Daddy, and I
that
told
was
it
Tuesday.
anyway.
I'd gone up there, you know, some of
And I said, Daddy, I said, Mama won't like about it here, but I said, she's going to get off it young and
Well,
like
said,
it.
no, I won't. Sue Dela, you're not
I said, well, Mama, that was just like you and Daddy.
You never heard that?
Yeah, I had heard y'all talk about that, but.
That was here in Lawrence.
Yeah, down at the home place. I remember
Yeah.
Mama telling us, or some of y'all telling us about
Well,
it.
y'all,
You might have told us.
what got started, see, we heard the joke, but they was some of y'all would ride, I believe they was telling about riding a wagon from down on that street where Mom and them lived across from Grace up
Y'all
to there
remember-
when they was
yeah.
building the
Yeah.
house.
We removed.
Now I don't remember, you know. Well, now I remember, and that's what got it started.
But
And
I
I heard
think
that
about we
joke.
moved in that wagon, that horse and
But
wagon.
see, I heard that joke,
Yeah.
and I couldn't resist it. I said, Mama, that just fits you and Daddy. And she wouldn't
Mama
listen to it,
said,
but Daddy did. So
Sue
did.
Dela.
I-
And I could see her taking her apron, and she
Yeah.
was so embarrassed. Sue Dela said, she said, well, my goodness, Mama, you just go off in life. No, I won't, either. No, I won't. And I sitting over there.
And Lord, that couple, they got me started to telling some about when we was kids. And that woman, I was like, that's one reason she wanted me to come over here yesterday.
Yes,
but
sir.
I didn't
Well, tell them
about
about when we lived there at Anderson, where that shopping mall is. It's across from the
Excuse
shopping
me, oh Lord, honey, we
Well,
never
she
did
got
live
sick.
by ourselves.
No, well, everywhere we, that's why I said while
Brother Otis and his young, and Leroy and Smith
Glenwall.
and Glenwall. Glenwall was good.
Yeah. We said Glenwall was good.
Good. Oh, honey, he wasn't
good
trouble, but Leroy
and
was mean as a snake.
And
Yeah.
Glenwall was so handsome.
And Leroy was mean as the booger man,
They
honey.
had some girls too.
And,
didn't they?
yeah, Beaver and I'm kidding. She'd pray for her. That boy, she'd pray. She'd do just like her dad. Boy, brother Otis was one of these kind. He'd preach hard, didn't he? You know when he'd be preaching, and she would.
When he got saved.
And she would see, we'd have church too when they'd go on. Leroy would preach. He was mean as he could be, but he could preach, you know. Well, Mom and them left us there. Well, see, now me and Carl's old. I'm not but 12 years old with all. Well, I wasn't even. I've not even been 12. About 11,
It was
between
when I
11 and
started
12.
school. I started school
But anyway,
to Anderson.
But anyway,
I was
we
six.
lived up there.
I
Well,
was
see,
six.
Mom and them go to church. There was too many kids.
See,
Too many kids.
you were about. I was about 6, and how much older are you than me?
I'm
Let's see.
69. I'm
69,
almost
and I'm
70.
64. You 5 years older than I am. You was 11.
Well, I was 11. But anyway, let's see, I was there. Well, Carl was there. But see, I had the responsibility. I always kind of feared Mama. I'm not saying that to try to make it sound like that I was better, but I was the oldest, and Mama's, you know what Mama would say? Mama would say that she didn't understand because she did put a lot of responsibility on me, but I was afraid.
If you wanted.
And I'm gonna tell you, I was afraid not to mind Mama
Yeah.
and Daddy. I thought I was supposed to, and I was.
That's right, we were.
Well, see, and I was afraid not to. Well, see, Mama and them left me with the kids, and I'm still a good bit like that. If I'm responsible for children, I got to have my own. I got to know where they're at. And that's the way I try to do. And the house would get tore up and everything else, but now them kids would be with me. And but up there, Brother Otis and them went too, and their kids stayed there. Well, now everybody's got to wash their feet before they go to bed because we was barefooted out. And I couldn't get them to wash their feet. And JT and I'll tell you, they decided while they was doing that, I was trying to get Leroy out there to wash feet, and he wouldn't do it. And see, they was, and I didn't know how to spin. Leroy spin. Couldn't get him to wash his feet. And I couldn't get Carl to come out there because Carl thought he was grown, you know, and he didn't have to. I was there and I could be the mama and make them mind.
Well, it's aggravating for the younger ones to have to mind another younger.
I know it, but
with Aunt Louise.
But see, but you see, though, now I wasn't dogmatic that way. I just tried to. I was scared of what was going to happen. I didn't want Mama to give y'all a whipping no more than I wanted one. See, now that's the way I was, and because I remember them. I remember the feelings I had. I felt sorry for my brothers and sisters. I did because I wanted.
Well, you knew that the Leroy and them was making the ones do it.
And see, and I told them, I said, Mama and them, Mama and them's gonna have a fit. I said, you got to wash your feet. Well, Carl and them now decided they're gonna get even Leroy because he wouldn't. But see, I was having to stand out there on the back porch farm, holding the lamp. and he
Thank
found
the
out
Lord
that,
for not lying.
but let me tell you though what he did. He got out there and that Carl and Glenwall got a sheet, went around the house. And I knew they was gonna do it, but Leroy didn't. And there was a door went in the kitchen this way, and then the porch was kind of like this up at the side. The kitchen come back, and then there was a hallway down through it. And so Leroy, he was there. He was washing his feet, and they come around the house and and when he seen when he see, I know. So I was holding the lamp, and
He was like Wendy Bag. Well, he made a door.
Honey, he went through that door, but he went through so fast he turned tumble, and he just went till he hit the wall up at the front.
And we didn't have no steps at the front.
And
that front door, they don't have no steps at the door.
well, we just went in and out at the back mostly.
That's
And,
where we
the
did
front, they never did finish that house, I don't think.
Well,
I think
that's
the
where
front
y'all pulled
porch.
your car. Did y'all have a car back
Yeah,
there?
they had a car.
As long as I can remember.
But the front of the house, I think they had planned to put a big porch on the front, but it never had been finished. Really. It was a nice house
It
inside.
had windows on each side of the door, and you had these little windows on it. It was a real
But
nice house.
then, you know, Brother Otis and I would try to, and I wouldn't. They'd be scared to death then. They'd be begging, you know, not wanting me to tell. Well, I wouldn't tell on them. I wouldn't tell on them. But while we was there,
Did he wash his feet after y'all
yeah, he was washing. He didn't finish.
He wasn't on that back porch, though.
He wouldn't go.
I could just see
But
it.
I remember Mom and them come on East Street now. That's when I started school. We lived on 6 East Street. I can take you to the house now. 2-story house on East Street, Mill Hill at Anderson, close to the Baptist Church or Methodist. I don't know, but anyway, it's close
I
to
don't
the church.
remember, because
I was 6 years. Well, I was 6 years old, almost 7, and I started school. But Mom and them now would go to Honey Pad, and Mama Belmer was the baby, and I had her. She was little, and I had to tend to her now, and we just that old.
I'm just 3 years older than Grace, and Belmer's in between us now. She had 2 babies there.
And I had to tend to them now. Well, I tended to Gaynell, and I wasn't even old enough to go to school. Mama
She
worked
showed us
in
the
the
house.
hills.
We went there, saw the house,
Yeah.
and we've done it and everything. Got
It
pictures of it.
did. And Mama used to tell me, she'd say, Sue, please don't talk about that, honey. when I think about how I
She
and
was.
don't. She said,
Yeah.
please don't talk about that. Said, do you think I'd leave it? And of
But
course
you know,
it
look
was
at all the
big.
preachers that's
Yeah,
preached and
well-
won souls for Mama doing like that, because there's so many
Right.
preachers. In
That's why we can understand preachers doing like
Yeah.
that.
Right. And but anyway,
You still
okay,
care?
I was 6 years old. I started. Well,
Now,
Mom
where
then
was
went
this
to
now? I don't remember.
Anderson on 6 East Street in Anderson.
That was when I was little.
And I was between 6 and 7. Anyway, I'd start
could've
school.
been
Well,
two.
Mama and them went to Honey Pack. They was having church. That's when right after they organized church. Well, they was having in store buildings and whatever down at Honey Pack. Well, see, going to Honey Pack, that was like going much because it was
yeah.
dirt road.
Yeah.
And it would be 12 and 1 o'clock when they'd get home after church
Well, they
because
got
they didn't
to go
start
on,
till about
yeah.
7:30, and then they'd have a long altar service, you know, and whatever, and visiting and some to eat and whatever. And I tried to get there, and then I'd tell Carl and JT, and his feet was rusty. He had a shoe. I told him, I said, JT, Mama would give me a whipping.
He just playing out the
Yeah,
yard like,
yeah, I mean, you know, they was
But
there.
what,
And I told him,
like that from being in
and
the garden.
see, we had a stairway, and you know, and I tried to get him to wash his feet. And I said, Mama will come and she'll give me a whipping. Well, see, he went on the bed, and I was scared, and Velma wouldn't go to sleep. I believe she remembers the baby.
I thought it was
Well, I done got you to sleep, yeah. I believe I done
I
got you to sleep. I believe you went on the bed.
I said,
And I
But
cried
that's
and
what
begged
they do.
Carl. I cried and begged Carl. I sucked my thumb, that one finger till I remember sucking it when I was a pretty big girl. But I begged Carl to stay up with me, and he wouldn't do it. They finally went on to bed. Everybody was in the bed. And Velma cried, and she cried. I got her out on the front porch in the rocking chair. And I went to sleep out there holding her. And Mama said when they turned that road, she said, oh, John. Said, yonder sits that young man on the front porch. And it was 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. But she said, but I could depend on you. Said, you had that baby in her. That's what Velma say, I used to love you. Up at Pals, I never did get to be a kid. Really, I did.
No, you
you brought something else when you said pals. I brought something else, mine.
Sister Hinton.
And Mama was gonna make gravy. She got scared. Sister Hinton kept a glass back there with the
And
kerosene
put kerosene in it.
to start the
Fire.
fire. And so
Mama thought it was oil?
yeah, she thought it was
Fat man.
thought it was water.
Oh.
She thought it was water. She just
Uh-huh.
went there, I guess, talking. And when she started put the stuff in there, she poured kerosene.
Yeah. Well, I didn't remember it. I'll tell you what I remember about it. See, Velma, it's a wonder I hadn't grown crooked. Toting youngins around. That was, hey,
Was Velma born at Paris?
I was fixing to say now that I believe somebody, but anyway,
Somebody was born at Paris.
it does seem like it now. I'm not going to say because I don't remember. I don't remember any of it.
That just flashed in my mind.
Because, well, I'm going to tell you, I know we was there, and I know Velma was the baby there. And we was up at Hinton's. And this little girl down there, what with Tiggs, lived down close to the river, you know, over there. And this little girl wanted me to spend the night with her. And I told her, I said, Mama, if I have to take Velma with me, I am not going. Because everywhere I went, I had to have young'uns with me. And so Mama got her, told me I'd have to get her to sleep. Well, I got to sleep. They was up at Hinton's. They lived up right up from there. So I went home with the little girl. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, they heard somebody knocking at the door, and it was Daddy, and he had Velma. He said, I want to serve Dela. And she come to me, and I had to put her in the bed for me. Mama couldn't get her quiet. All Mama done, that's what I told that young one. I told her, all Mama done was give her tea. If I'd have had some, she wouldn't have done that.
If they had a ball, you'd have to raise her.
Right.
Okay, now you know something. Somebody was born at Pelzer, I believe.
We had the measles at Pelzer. And
Well,
we
see,
lived
I
over
think
in
you-
we
because
lived
Velma
at
was here.
Pelzer.
I'm not even 2 years. I'm just 20
Hey.
months to the day older than them.
We lived over at Pelzer, and we all had the measles. I never
We
forget.
went back to Pelzer several times.
Yeah.
Then when we lived at Belton,
But
Mom
we
and Dad
was
had to go to
visiting
church.
there when that happened we was just there at a meeting. It was, we was at Hinton's. We might have lived at Belton then. You know, Belmer was up pretty good size. Belmer, Eva May, where was Eva May born?
Over there on Belton.
At Belton.
No, now, but see
You mean on McGee or at Easley?
on McGee
Hill.
Street.
McGee and
McGee
Belton,
at
and
Belton.
Belton, Early
And
born.
on Hill Street.
Yeah.
But seemed like somebody was born at Pales. See,
After we think about
I
it.
believe Velma, you know,
It
it's
might have
coming
been.
back. I believe because I can't remember where Velma. Well, I don't know because see, I'm just 20 months to
See,
that.
Belmer was
Just think I
named
was
after a
20
state overseer's wife, wasn't she?
I don't know.
One of Belmer. It seems to me like she was our preacher's wife or something. It seemed to me like Belmer. It's Sister Belmer.
One children, brother.
Yeah, it does sound like it. Belmer Childers, I believe it was. Brother Johnny Childers' wife, was it? I believe she was.
And
And he was a state overseer at one time, wasn't he?
one-eyed children. One-eyed children.
Yeah.
The
I don't
one
know.
eye.
But boy, I'm gonna tell you, I never forget that man could preach. He could preach and he would touch you. And I'm gonna tell you, I've always had a soft spot for orphans. You know, orphanage home. Mama always did too, and young people. But I never forget. They always let him preach when they would be raising money for the home for children. I mean, for the Church of God orphanage. They'd let him in, buddy. He could bring the money in because
His daughter still plays the piano at Allison Church.
I don't think she's ever married, has
And the brother, one of the
Yeah,
boys sang.
Jane. I know him, Jake.
But now let's
Jake
see now.
sings with.
We lived at McCall, and Dillon, and Bunker Hill,
And we lived at
And-
Marion.
Marion.
Yeah, we did. We lived at Marion. I'll tell you what I remember about Marion. I couldn't tell you where we lived. I can't remember nothing about where we lived except I remember. I thought, we was getting rich then. Mama bought some. They call it sandwich spread now, but what did they used to call it? Relish.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd make sandwiches out of it, and see that was we never had nothing but peanut butter and
Did we have
jelly.
peanut butter?
Jelly.
Well, sometimes, Mama would buy peanut butter loose in a little old, like trays that
Yeah,
you sell or get loose peanut butter.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, we had peanut butter, but Mama got that, and I never forget. It made me sick.
Well, that one thing I can remember. There's one thing that when Mama went to buy groceries or buy food, she would always bring a little bitty bag of the corn candy.
It's enough where she could divide it around. We'd have
corn
some.
candy and
You remember where she hid her apples when she'd be pregnant? She always loved fruit. Do you remember where she always hid them? Well, she didn't mean to hide them from us, but she craved it, and she had to because children would
well,
waste
it's like
it.
that when you're
You know how
when
you
you're
used to
craving that,
hang-
it's just like an addict.
I know it.
You know how you used to hang pots and things on the wall?
And she
on
put
there?
them in the pot.
She put them in the pots and hang them on the. And I'll tell you, one day I said something, but you know what? I was an obedient child in a way.
We were.
I really was because I knew it. I said, I smell it instead of sneaking it like kids would do. I didn't. I said, Mama, I smell apple. You know, I could smell apple in it.
Yeah.
But I didn't bother.
I always obeyed Mama and Daddy, but
I-
Velma, the only one
Younger they got.
Velma and Grace, they were right together. They were all together, different from me, and they always stuck together. They always stuck together, and they would. I don't mean, but you know, I mean, they stuck together, and I guess they call it sort of a loner like, and they would sneak up, and they'd sneak in life, and you know, they wouldn't let me in on the thing.
Let me tell you what, I
Did
never
you go
forget
tell
when
Mama the reason?
I don't reckon.
you know what?
I never let them know nothing.
Well, really, well, see, now I didn't have to do it. The only thing I had to act like a mama.
Well, that ain't nothing. I had to raise her.
I know it, but
And
I
I rocked her, and Edith would get to go sing. She'd go sing, and I hated her guts. I did. Because it was you. Look at all I had to take care of, too. I had from you up to me. How many is that?
Gaynell, Belmer, and Grace.
You had Eva Mae and Ed Louise and Grace. Was Grace young enough?
And I don't see if that was from Bama.
Down to CA.
And I would take and I would rock you, just like I'd rock you, and you wouldn't go to sleep. And Mama and Edith would go and sing. So she'd go sing.
They go to sleep before Mama come home though.
No.
About the time Mama'd come in,
And
Mama.
I would rock. I'd be rocking out, and I'd blow your eyes. That's why. And I did my own children that way. I'd
blow.
You close your eyes.
I'd get close your eyes.
I've done it.
And
Was you born in our family? Do you remember anything about the Hanvey family, hon?
Yeah.
What do you remember about it?
I remember down, when we was going to the lower part of the state. When
In
we
the
were
trailer.
organized, in the trailer. But I don't remember. The first thing that I remember was.
Down there where Daddy caught a deer, killed a deer.
Yeah, I remember that.
Waterburn.
Yeah.
Cause
I think that you'd say to me, put all them clothes on.
Yeah. But the first thing that I remember is Greenville. We lived
Where
in
Mama,
Greenville.
right across from Washington Avenue Baptist
oh
Church.
yeah.
And it's a big old house. Was there a hallway or a big old porch?
There's
We
porch
used to
wasn't
get-
around.
Porch for the
Well, and I remember that, and I remember getting June bugs there, and JT brought a watermelon, but they wouldn't give me none because I peed on the bed.
You wet the bed.
I went to bed, and they wouldn't give me none, and that's where Mama painted her titty. And so Earlene, to get Earlene to quit nursing because she was
sucked it
pregnant
right off.
wasn't she pregnant with Curtis? Then
Right.
I don't know what year we lived.
Well, she was
there.
just wanting to wean him. I
She's
don't know what she's
wanting
pregnant
she's
or not.
wanting to wean Earlene.
And
but
Curtis was born
she'd
at my
take
house
her.
at Honey Pond.
She'd take her out there and set her on the
She was
running
free,
board of
huh?
the car, and we'd run around. I don't know. We'd be running around at night. Mom would set her down on the running board of the car, and then when she'd come in there, she'd have her boobie painted, polished with shoe polish.
Somebody lived in the other side of the
Yeah, somebody lived in the house.
But that's where Georgia Kearns lived down below.
Yeah,
That's where we
right.
met
No,
Georgia.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
It was Georgia
But
Right.
that's the first.
And Washington Avenue was just a little old
Church. Yes.
wood church.
It was
Well, I
just.
don't remember nothing else about that except just
We moved
that's
from-
all
you
I
don't
remember.
You don't remember
moved from
fighting
East-
Mildred and them and getting your tail beat?
Uh-uh.
Was it you or Ed Louise? Was Ed Louise big enough to buy?
Oh, I'm sure she was, because see,
It was one of y'all
between
because Audrey or Roy won. I believe it was Audrey.
We got to go back and tell about, you got to tell about JD working in the mill and blowing off. And, that was his job, was blowing off.
When
What did
we
he blow
got
off?
the looms, when we got when me and JD got married, we went to Anderson and Brother Cooper married us over
Well,
there
what
close.
did you tell JD? He
Well,
kept
JD
asking
come
me.
over there, kept begging me to get married.
on
Wanted me
begging.
to get married. Well, see, all the girls in Honey Pond, he was good looking.
Oh.
And everybody in Belton, all those girls wanted him.
They're jealous of
And
me.
he didn't want nobody but me. And I knowed I had him, and so
She was
I,
so mean to him.
I'd say, well, why don't you go with Mary Camel, or why don't you get you somebody else, And I told him, I said, because all I've got to do is crook my finger and he'll be here.
Absolutely.
I
You
did.
said it. Yes, you did.
And I
You
would
come over and bring your banana.
and I
bring us orange slices.
I would I'm not going to tell the one. I'll tell it to y'all when it ain't on there, because it's heartbreaking.
Okay.
And what I mean, what I did, I would
But you
want
tell
nobody
him.
to know.
But you tell him what you
Well,
what you
this
told
is-
him when he
Well,
asked.
this is it. Well,
he
he
asked
kept
you over and
begging
over
me
again.
to get married. He loved me, and Mama would even tell me she knowed I wasn't nothing but a kid. And then again, maybe it'd been a relief to get rid of one. But it makes one
Not
less.
you, because you were her
One less.
babysitter.
That's what I know. See, but
And
I
we
reckon
live
she
where
thought
you
there'd
was
be
born
one
when this
less.
happened. We live where you
But-
was born.
No, but see, Mama would
right?
tell me, Mama would tell me though, because I told him one time,
She's so hateful.
to go with Mayor Campbell, and he went with Mayor Campbell. And see, JD wanted a wife because he didn't have no home. His mama was dead, and Daddy and his sister and them lived down in the country, and he stayed with us there. And he wanted a home. And I reckon he thought I was good material, and he
Yeah, you
wanted
kept
me.
all them babies.
And I had lots of experience,
He loved you.
But he cared, and he would do all kind of things. Well, he went with Mary, but you know what Mary Campbell said? See, she was a good Christian girl, and Mary told him, said, so, JD said, you're a good man, and I love you. but said sometime when Sue Dela gets older, she's going to realize that she loves you too, and it would be too late. And said, but you don't love me the way you love her, and
They
that's
must have
true.
talked about
Yeah.
it.
And well, see, they
Well, how
all
old were
but
you?
he begged everybody. But see, I wasn't. But
50.
I was. This was 14 and 15 years old, and see, well, I was grown. See, I was. I done quit school. I went to work with
Went
me.
to grade school.
And but anyway, he kept begging me though. Well, then they quit, and he kept begging me. So one night he come over. I never forget. I was down. I was mom and him. You know how people used to put oil and something other in around the edge of wax around the edge of your 9x12 and linoleum rug. You would fix the floor. And I was
Take
down doing
kerosene
that,
and
and he
wax.
come in over there, and he started, and I said, J.D. Hopkins, I said, if you'll just leave me, I'll marry you Easter.
Shut your mouth.
Now.
I'll marry you Easter. Because we all heard her.
And
He
then
said,
he,
J.D. Hopkins, if you'll hush your mouth, I'll marry you Easter.
and see, he loved me, and all them women would have given
When
anything
you were
for me.
15, when you married?
I married in February before I was 16 in June. Well, see, he kept begging me then to bring it up. Well, we went on then and got married. Well, Dorothy, Ruth's sister, Dorothy Green, and who was she married?
Scott.
Yeah.
Charles Scott.
But it
No,
wasn't
Charles
Charles.
Harold Scott.
Harold.
Scott.
Harold, well, they went with us. See, Ruth and wanted to go with us. Her and Carl wanted to go with us. But Dorothy didn't want to go because they didn't like Harold. The Greens didn't, and they wanted to go with us to get married, so they did. We picked them up, and we didn't take Carl in. But we was going to come back to Carl's house and spend the night down there, right below Mom and them. Now, I wanted to do something mean. I felt big. I guess I was getting married, and I wanted to do something. JD, I guess, but I don't know why we didn't want them to go. But because
Did y'all have
Dorothy,
marriage license?
huh?
Did y'all have to have marriage
JD had done. JD had done. Went after he asked Mom and them, and they got consent. And really, I didn't know too much about it. I just went along and got married. I let them do all the thinking. Why should I? I just went along. I was getting a new daddy. I wanted to last a long time, and I had. We lived in the parsonage, and Carl and them lived in that big old Dye house right down. Mr. Dye and them, they lived down there below.
Well, then y'all lived in parsonage after Mom and them moved to Easley? Did you and
No.
where did you and JD
Me and
live?
JD, we stayed with
Yeah,
Sue's mama.
Yeah,
Yeah,
y'all
Pace.
lived-
Over there, close to the high school at Belton, and then we got that house up there and moved in that house. But though now when we went out and JD went and got the license and all, Mom and them had to sign them, and they signed them, and so that morning that I was gonna get married,
Who
see,
married you? What preacher?
Brother Cooper, George Cooper.
He was a famous preacher.
He was good. And but he was pastoring Osborne Avenue Church of God, and it was right there, right by the Osborne Avenue Church of God. We went over there, and but that morning that I was going to get married, well, see, we had slept 3 and 4 to the bed. I was in one car over there, but Paul Mama, she come in there and said I was a mean young'un in a way. I mean, I done these smart things, and I was soft-hearted, really. And why I had that buff out there, I believe it was because I was given too much responsibility too soon. You know,
Well,
as
you
a
have
child,
to be like
I
a
had,
dog.
I had
And you're still
resentment
a
for
child.
it.
What a dog
Yeah.
did.
But see, I resented it because I wanted to do things that other children done, and I didn't get to do that.
Subconsciously, then.
I guess that's what made me do this. But see, I was getting married, you know, and I was
You
trying
could
to
do
be
like
cute
you
about
wanted
it.
to.
You know, I was trying to be cute about it. My mom would come in there, and I didn't want to cry. And see, Mama had a feeling because I was her daughter, and
Yeah.
she didn't know she was losing something precious. You're part of a
You're
VIP.
her babysitter.
Well, yeah.
You're the VIP.
Yeah, well, I tell you, and she come in there that morning to wake me up, and y'all might remember some of whoever was sleeping in that room, because Mama come in there and she said, just to think that this will be the last morning I can wake you up and you'll be mine. And she just cried. And some of the kids in there said, so Dela said, ain't you ashamed? You're not even crying. I said, well, what I want to. I said, well, yeah, I'm crying now. She said, but that whoever it was said, well, it might have been Edith, and said, and poor Mama just crying. I said, well, what I want to get married for, cry for. I'm getting married today. I did.
Yeah.
And we went on and got married, and then I'll tell you where we went. I'll tell you where we went. Now, we went on our honeymoon, honey. We left, and Harold Scott them carried us. We went all the way to Greenville on Main Street to Pete's. And we didn't even get out. The Pete's Drive-In, a hot dog place.
Oh, did they have things then?
Huh?
They had
Yes.
Pete's Drive-In?
Pete's, it was Pete's #1 in Greenville. Up on Main Street. And we didn't even, they didn't carry us in. They went in.
You didn't have a
And
drive-in?
got it. No, see, they parked out in the front, and they went in and got us a hot dog. And Laura, they got us an orange crush to drink with it.
Oh, boy, you just sinning.
And I was sinning something terrible.
That's all right. You wasn't wanting
And,
no more.
and you know,
No more. You
and we
were
went up
hockey.
there, and you know what? And they brought us back to Bell and let us out. And we spent the night with Ruth and them. And you know what Ruth and them done? Ruth, well, they didn't say nothing. They acted all right, because they knew why when they found out it was Dot and them. Said Dot didn't want them to go. I would have let Carl and Ruth win. But Dot knowed they didn't like Harold, and so they was afraid they'd
Harold
say
was so
something.
good-looking.
He was a good-looking person. They was two good-looking men in that car.
Yeah.
And we come back and we went to bed. And
They
when we
did
went to bed,
what?
I'm going to tell you, oh yeah, they had our bed downstairs and they slept upstairs. Ruth had it fixed, you know. Ruth was sweet. And so I went to bed, and I wanted JD to go out when I put on my gown, you know. And he said, well, you belong to me, and so what's wrong with this? Because, see, you didn't have bathrooms
How
to
much
go in
older
like
he
that.
was than you?
He was about 5
I
years
know he
older
was-
than
we
me.
thought he was old, you
Yeah,
know.
he was 5 years older than me. And and we got in the bed, and I ain't gonna tell you what I done.
Oh,
Y'all
I
was
thought
just-
you was gonna do an X-ray. I thought we were gonna have a X-ray movie.
Now, well,
Her mind
we was
just
laying
went a
there.
mile a minute.
And see, well, now, really, I wasn't all that brave.
But you didn't know what was going on, did you?
No, I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought I would do what come naturally. You know what? And I
Mama
didn't know.
didn't tell you
No,
nothing?
Mama never had told us nothing, because you
She
didn't
didn't tell you
tell
nothing
people.
either.
No, and I just had to figure it out for myself. I reckon JD told me. I reckon. But anyway, we lay in bed, and I told him, I said, I hear something, and it was going tick, 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 tick. And I kept hearing something going tick, 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 tick. And I didn't know what it was.
What, calling him upstairs?
They was upstairs.
Where's that up there?
Don't tell you what it was. No, they had put the clock and had it set to alarm and had it in a dishpan up under our bed. But I felt under that. But I was almost afraid to, because I was afraid we wanted to let the joke be on them, and we was going to get it out from under. Yeah, telling us what to do. And so JD reached under there and eased it out, eased that pan out, and cut the alarm off. And see, and that Ruth said, Y'all mean things said they stayed awake all night waiting for that alarm clock to go off. And I said, we was laying there sound asleep. I was sound asleep in JD's arms. But I became Mrs. J.D. Hopkins.
What year?
In 1934, was it? When we got married, I believe it was
The year
1934.
that you were born.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
what month?
February the 15th.
Well, it was 35 then, because if she was
February
born.
the 15th.
Were you
No,
married?
Roy was born in 35.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So,
Before,
yeah,
because
yeah.
you wasn't-
In 30.
you was born after she married.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And
That's right.
well, and then we stayed on. We moved around different places, and then then we moved up there.
Named after her.
Yeah.
And Eddie's named after Mama.
And so I come.
Leroy Pace.
Well, I'd come over there. Mama,
What? Leroy Pace was a good looking
Yeah. And we was just crazy about good looking men. We could always be around where they was at. Something about it, just good looking men attracted anybody, any woman, don't. But Mama would come and Mama would say, "So Dela, I just can't do without you. You just gonna have to come back and help me. I just can't do without you." 'Cause see,
Yes.
I don't-
She didn't
I-
realize
how
what a
much-
VIP she had.
that's true. You know, it's
You don't
true.
realize it till you lose what you
It's
got.
true, and I don't mean, I know the others younger than me did, but I had to do so much so young, and then I married so young. And I guess that's the reason the Lord's let me stay young, so I can enjoy,
Yeah.
live it. I guess that's the reason I enjoy life so good. And I thought, I don't regret having to do that. I
And
told
you didn't-
Mama,
That's what I told Mama. Mama wrote me a
Uh-huh.
Not complaining.
no,
You just telling it.
You know what? I told Mama, and Mama would say, "Sue Dela, but please," she said, "but I'll tell you this, and no reflections on my other girls, but said, I did not have another one that I could depend on like I could. You said, they keep my house looking good. They take care of the children."
You just wouldn't take care of the children.
Well, that's what
She
she
run us
said.
out of the house.
I'll tell you what she said.
She
Well,
cleaned the house.
now this is what she meant, Gaynell. Now, no reflection on any of y'all, because
But
I
you
know
was a
y'all
little
done
mama.
shared. But what she said, she did not, I guess it was because the first ones, you see.
Yeah,
And,
she
and,
was-
and then
she
she
really-
learned to
See,
take.
Sue Dilla was like the first girl because Ruth.
Oh.
And
in
then,
school.
because Ruth went off to school, and see, she was a visitor to us. We was so proud to have her home, we let her do anything she wanted to. At them 3 months in the summer and 2 weeks at Christmas was all we ever seen her, except that time we went to see her and we sneaked her out. And we was on our way home and she jumped up and said, "Goody, goody, goody." We had to take her back to school. We'd sneaked her out in the car. Was going to let her
That
come home
building, I
with
was
us.
in that building not too long ago.
Oh.
They just had that one.
Well, didn't she tell Mom she thought that they were giving her
No.
away because she couldn't hear what they're saying when they put her on the
Train.
train to go to
I
school.
don't know, but it might have.
Ruth
Now,
told us.
it, oh,
Mama's put her on the train.
At Westminster.
And she had to ride all the way to Spartanburg. That was like going to California then.
Yeah.
On a train, and then she
they
didn't know
and
how
she
to
was
talk
just
to her.
in care of the
Mr.
conductor.
And the walker. She
Yeah,
had,
had to pick
but
'em
she had
up.
just wrote to. She couldn't call them. They just communicated.
Corresponded that one. And but now, no, I told Mama, well, you know, I just like that, and I'm so proud that I'm like that though. It's never occurred to me that I had to sacrifice or do any of these things to me, because just like I said, that was my mom and daddy,
That's
and I thought that was what I was supposed to do, was to do what they, and what Mama did have to have help. She said, well, she was young herself, and she had that, and she did not have the money to clothe us properly to go to church.
You were the sixth child.
I
Mom
was the sixth child, and Mama was 27 when I was born.
Yeah. And
Because so much, I thought my
but now you know, it's to me it's wonderful. I enjoy this.
I'm gonna check my tape. I don't want to run out no more.
Yeah, I
excuse me.
Okay, we'll do.
When
I
we moved
enjoy.
from the lower part of the state, we came back up there. That's when Grace died. She
Yeah.
she was sick.
And we went to Seneca
And we
for
went-
a short while. We lived a house several streets
Oh,
below.
yeah. We
Hey,
lived on
Eunice,
this
don't
'cause
you
I
remember?
Yeah, I remember because
Yeah.
Carl would put
Made flowers
yeah.
out. Yeah.
And,
See,
and our speaker was on the back
now
porch.
I
And
had forgot.
Velmer, got up on there, and then where we'd watched, them slipped off of
Yeah,
there.
I had forgotten, and I remember that one time when I was over there with Mama, I said, Mama, I want you to tell me, and maybe it'll stick in my mind, you know, about when I told her I was trying to remember, see how far back I could remember. And really, I don't remember back. My first recollections of anything was at Pendleton, really. And see, I was about 5. It
That's
was
when I
a little
was
bit
born.
before. Yeah, it's
That's when I was
when
born,
you
'cause
was baby.
I mean, when I was a baby, cause
Yeah.
you
When
came to
you was
church
baby,
that
yeah,
house.
because I took care of you.
But
But
the
now
first place
before
I
that,
remember McCall.
and so Mama was, I tried, Mama tell me where y'all lived before that. And they lived at Westminster. That's where Carl went down there and asked for some cat fur to make kitten breeches. You remember that? You remember telling that?
Yeah.
Well, see, Carl kept aggravating Mama and them. They lived at Westminster. Now, I don't remember this. And that's why I said, Mama said, I asked her, I said, well, where'd y'all move from before then? And where'd you move from before then? Well, those places didn't come back to my mind. And if Mama was telling something, I might would bring it back to my mind. But I do remember us moving to Pendleton. And, but that was before I was old enough to go to school. I'd be 4 or 5 years
Yeah,
old.
well,
so.
I was born. So
Yeah,
you about 5.
so-
She was about 5 or 6.
And they, as far as say, in times past, they may have been something that I could remember, but it's not stayed with
But
me.
Sue, I
But when
cannot
Mama
remember
did-
church. I cannot remember any churches until we went to Belton.
I don't really.
That's
much.
the only church.
You know what I remember? Is being under a tent. I remember going to wire shows and going in people's houses and having church.
I guess that's the reason why.
And in store
when we went to
buildings.
Belton, I don't even remember going to church at Anderson. Now I went to.
I do remember.
I went to
all that.
Catholic. We lived on Catholic Street, and I went to Kennedy Street School. That's where I started,
Yeah.
Kennedy Street School, and we lived on Catholic.
Yeah,
Street.
that's down close to Orr Mill.
And now that
I remember living. Now that might have been. I wasn't very old then. Now that might be the first thing I remember. That we lived on in front of Brother Looney.
well, that was
and
about,
then,
when I remember start school. That was about the second or third time Mom and them lived at Anderson.
But see, we lived in the hall. The Woodmans was up overhead. You know that.
Women of the world.
Yeah, was upstairs, and down here it was an old schoolhouse that they had, and we just had curtains in there to divide it. And people lived in the bottom part of it, and Brother Looney and them lived in a mill house, 2-story mill house, right across the street from us, and that's where we got our dog Roger. That was not too long before we went down to the lower
Oh,
parts.
and one time you said you started talking about them, Carl and him, and you said something about Roger died. but
Died
they didn't
down there at Bunker Hill. Somebody fed him glass, or he had, what do they call, some kind of mouth that the dogs have. But he couldn't open his mouth, and Mom and them is bad. But they know dogs like, somebody told him to get a can of salmons and see, but he couldn't open his mouth, and he died down there. It was that was
I've
our
got a
long
picture of Carl with the dog.
with
Roger.
Roger. We named it after Brother Lou.
Yeah, love Brother Louis so good.
Well, that's what Curtis's kids named that little dachshund. Didn't Zeno get? I don't know where Zeno got it from, or anyway, we were
Was it
down here,
Zeno?
and they named it Zeno. That one of the little what?
Well,
I think it's before we got dogs.
Well, Wade and them named a Chihuahua he got for Geraldine, named it Leo.
Yeah,
After
that's
Dela.
right.
Don't
That's
you
the one
remember?
that got gone, wasn't it?
Yeah,
But
that's
they
the
never
one
did
that,
find
like,
it.
yeah, they found it, don't you know, and it was
Oh,
dead.
yeah.
A car had hit him.
Now we
Right.
went from the way I remember, we came from the lower part of the state, and that's when we moved to Seneca over there.
Yeah,
up
on
from,
that-
from
that's
Grandma
what I
and them.
said.
Well,
Yeah.
is
And
that
then we
is
went
that when y'all moved to Seneca? Is that where Bill Long knew and his folks knew Mom and him and Carl got that rusty nail in his foot?
That
Might
must
have
have
been.
Do y'all remember that?
No, but
Bill's
I
always
remember
telling
talking
me.
about some of his people, and Mama remembered.
Hey, they some
Don't
people
remember.
that remembers things that ain't went around like we did.
Well,
that we
see,
don't remember.
it's like people sitting out in the congregation and knowing
Yeah.
the preacher's
Well,
children.
see, he can't. He's told in
He
some
don't
school
know.
because he said what they could. You know what? Reason he remembered it is because they didn't take him to the doctor,
Doctor.
and they just prayed for it and it got better.
Yeah.
You know, and said he come back over there and they want to know who got that. You know, where did they take you to get the nail out of your foot? His daddy and mom and them was
Yeah.
asking Carl,
Yeah.
and Carl said, "Daddy or somebody took it out, so they just prayed for it."
Yeah.
And they couldn't believe, you know, that he's
Well,
gonna be
see,
living
we
the next. You know, they thought
We
it
moved from the lower part of the state then, and because Daddy had, Velmer had malaria fever, and Daddy Daddy had them leopard fever. Mama said that's why Velma always had them spots, you know, on her face. And they said they had to come back upstate. Now that's what Mama told. It could have been because of this other, you know.
Yeah.
But she came back up. They came back upstate. So I'm trying to get my mind. We came from there and we lived at Seneca. And then we moved from Seneca over to Slowtown, what I call Melton.
Yeah,
And then we
it might
moved.
have been it might have been Melton School was there.
Yeah, that's
and
why.
that's really
But
Melton
I remember
section.
Melton.
But
See,
they call up in there
and that's where Aunt
Slowtown.
Louise was born.
Mm.
And then we moved from there over there, across from that big shopping center up there where the little mall.
Eskew Farm. It was
From
the Eskew
there.
Farm. Them and Hammett's lived
And
up.
then we moved from there, I guess, to Kennedy Street, Catlett Street.
No, Catlett was later than that because we lived on East Street and F Street. And
That was before, but I believe, because I can remember.
that was before we went to the lower part of the state when we lived on F. I think we
Yeah, well,
moved
see, that
from
was
F
before
down.
I was, but now when we moved from out there in the country where Mama
We
made
did
Mother
move
and
down
Dad,
to Kennedy.
you know, Mama made Mother and Dad, we went to Kennedy, no, we went to Catlett Street.
Catlett.
And the Kennedy Street, too, I always got
Yeah.
them two mixed up. And one time I was in Anderson, I kept saying it over and over, so I remember. Not too many years
It's
ago.
Catlett. Lord, you wouldn't believe it. It didn't look like that when we lived down there. It's
No,
near
and so
town
it was,
now.
but we lived on,
Oh,
we lived on,
excuse me, sir.
we lived on Catlett Street, and I started. But we moved from that. We moved from up there where Mama made Mother and Dad, up there on Anderson Clemson Highway,
Eskew Farm.
and we moved from there to over there. That's when I quit sucking my fingers. I'd already started school, and I was stroking the district.
Yeah.
And then we moved from there to Belton.
Yeah.
And did we move to McGee Street when we first moved to Belton? That's where we moved
Yeah,
to.
'cause that's where
Yeah.
May was born.
McGee
and I was
Street.
born
I don't think I remember living anywhere else, but we moved from Anderson, and I was in first
Yeah.
grade. Then I went second
Belton.
grade at Belton there, and then we lived on McGee Street. Then we moved into the
the park.
parsonage, and
And
then
then
we
to
moved to
East.
Easley on Hill Street, and then from Easley we went to Abbeville.
Yeah, down to
We went to Abbeville.
You
Yeah,
moved to
'cause that's where
Honey Pie.